You're listening to The Business Focused Photographer. If you're ready to transform your photography business into a thriving career, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll discuss fun and innovative ways to boost your creativity and income. Sound good? Let's go. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. I am really excited about today's conversation because today I'm here with one of my idols, one of my favorite people to talk to, Rachel Larson Weaver. Rachel, if you don't know somehow, Rachel is she's known for her long form sessions, which is kind of what you may have otherwise thought of as day in the life, but it really isn't. And she shoots on film, and she's really, really great about body inclusivity and representing all types and just showing the beauty in everybody. But she's an educator too, and she's also a really good writer. So today we have so much to talk about, and we're going to try to focus on what we think is a dichotomy of art and business, but we don't know where this train is going. And I think it's going to be good no matter what. So thank you for being here.
We're going to try to focus. It probably could have just ended right there. Like,
that's it. Full stop. End of story. You get the picture. So Rachel, you were just, before I hit record, and I'm like, this is everything that comes out of your mouth is gold. I'm like, let's not waste this on not recording because, no, honestly, everything you say is educational and should be absorbed and metabolized by other photographers. And we were just talking about in my Facebook group, my Business Focused Photographer Facebook group, I've been sharing my journey of hiring a photographer for an extended family session and everything like that. And you've mentioned that you think it's just it's such an interesting thing, right? To be on the other side and
to like see where, what kinds of things matter to which people. And things like wanting people to respond back to you quickly. Whereas I know that there's a feeling like we don't need to be connected to our phone or, we don't want to feel, but also people, a lot of times when they're sending you that email, they're so excited. They want to move forward.
Yep.
And we want to capitalize on that enthusiasm and excitement and make it go.
Exactly. If my leads are anything like me, at the moment that I get the idea that I want something to happen, and that's why I have to work for myself because I don't have the patience to wait for these things to materialize on their own. Let's do it. So
same.
Yeah. So I can take 2 minutes out of my day. I might be doing something really special with my family and I see an email come in and all it takes is for me hey, just letting you know I got your email. I'm really excited to talk to you about this. I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. Or an automated one. But regardless, I know that the jury is split on this and there's more than there's a lid for every jar. So there's different types of clients for different types of people. But anyway, talk about this is going to be so if we could chart where this conversation goes, it's going to be zigzag.
I know, because I already had 15 things that I could have said. So I'm like, all right, I'll wait for where she wants to go. I'm here, Jill.
No, but if you see me and Jesus doesn't have the wheel, take the wheel, Rachel.
Yeah.
Do it.
Well, one thing you just said though about there's a different lid for every jar. And it's also a reminder that we get to build our businesses in ways that feel good. If it doesn't feel good to you, Lord knows there's plenty of people that are so slow in the response and they're really deliberate about it. And that's okay. Figure out what works for you and then go with it, man. And if the enthusiasm and the excitement is also how you work, then let that be forefront in your business and be I'm going to respond right away because I'm excited too.
Yeah. And that's a great segue actually into what we're intending to talk about, the dichotomy of the intersection of where art meets business and why we don't have to feel like sellouts if we are doing work for other people and making money off of it and how they actually lend themselves to each other because we get to build this thing ourselves. We design this business and the way it looks in a way that works for us.
Amen.
And it's so beautiful. So you want to talk about how you did that and how you continue to do that?
Yeah, I think that there are so many people that come into photography and maybe they loved making pictures and now they want to make a business. Though I also know some people who they have a kid and they hire their first family photographer and they're like, this racket, this is a great, and like, it's okay whichever way you enter in. I mean, but
it is a little bit of a racket, isn't it?
well, I think people on the outside, they're like, they're charging how much for a session? And that's why I think we see so many people come and go from the photography industry, because they're like, that's ridiculous. I could buy a camera. Think of all the money I could make. And even though I do think there is money to be made, and sometimes it feels like a racket to me because I'm having such a good time doing it.
Exactly.
But also, if you're just trying to make like easy money, I think there's easier ways of doing it.
Like working for other people.
Yeah. But this is a fun way to make money. It can be a really sustainable and fulfilling and exciting way of making money, and making money creating art and connecting with people. But it's still going to be the people who are making money, we're working.
Because it's a job.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
These sessions don't just like fall in our laps, and every Saturday we leave our families for, to go do that. There's so much involved in it. And I know that sometimes that first time that people are hiring a photographer, they're just like, well, cool, sign me up. I'll do this. So there's different reasons I think that we come into this. But one of the things for me, for it to be a sustainable business, is I need to be excited about the work I'm making and feel that it is like art forward, art driven. And I think sometimes people, because I mentor photographers, and they're so worried that if they make what they want to make, people aren't going to hire them. And I feel like that's really backwards thinking, because the way we all know that in business, we want to have scarcity around us. And one of the best ways you can make scarcity around your business is by making work no one else can make. They cannot hire another photographer in your town, in your region, in your state, who's doing what you're doing if you are making art that comes so from yourself, and that you're figuring out a way how to do that collaboratively. That makes you very scarce. You only have but so much time.
Amen. You are no longer a commodity, which is like something I try to really drive home to the people I work with, is like, you don't want to be a commodity. You don't want to be compared, or to be able to be compared apples to apples with the next photographer over, because then you're competing on price, and then nobody wins.
Yeah, and I'm so disinterested in that. Like,
right. Oh yeah. Same.
I mean, and I know I can be a little like spendy on the things I love, because it's interesting. There are some things I am so cheap about. My beat up old minivan, I don't care about cars. Like, do you know what I mean? There's the TV we use. I'm always like dealing with broken electronics. I don't care about those things.
Right.
But I'll spend a bunch of money on a dress that I want, or the mug that I want, or a piece of art for my wall. Like, there are times where I think people would be like, you spent how much on that? But it's because I loved it, and price wasn't the reason I was getting it or not getting it.
Right.
And I want to be one of those purchases.
Right. Exactly. And that was something that I discovered about myself recently when hiring this other photographer, is, well, we did go in with a budget, and I say we because it's being split between my sister and my sister-in-law and myself. So we didn't have endless amounts of money to spend. It was a healthy budget, but we couldn't just hire anybody. And once I narrowed it down to 3 people, I realized that I didn't care that one person was priced up here and the other one was down here. The one that was priced up there offered something that nobody else was offering. And it became irrelevant. That price point became irrelevant. And I have a harder time spending money on photography historically. And I think it has to do with being able to do it myself. So I probably don't value it as much as I do like the work my mechanic does, because I could never, ever do that. So but even all of that considered, like, this is really important to me. This is my parents and my sister and her kids who live in Denver, and my parents don't live nearby, and my brother and his family. When else do we all get together? This doesn't happen very often. And what if it's the last time we're all together? Like, these are
Yeah.
going to matter a lot to me. And now price becomes, it's taking a back seat to other things. And I think we project our own hangups with money and what we prioritize our spending on onto our clients. And then we get concerned about, oh, interesting things going outside of my window. Sorry. We get concerned about how our clients are feeling about our prices. And so I've stopped assuming. I have no idea how other people spend their money. It's
Yeah.
always a surprise to me,
Yeah. And like,
Yeah.
do you want to do this or not? And to know very clearly what it is that you want to do and to get so good at doing that.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
becomes really magnetic when you have excitement and enthusiasm around your work, around what you're making, around how you're making it, how you're interacting with people. Like when you found the things that you're like, oh, this is
Yes.
the Jill way, this is the Rachel.
Right.
It people are excited or attracted to your excitement and your enthusiasm. And so if you feel like you're doing all of this for someone else, it doesn't have the same magnetism.
No, it doesn't. And how did you come to find that or strike that balance in yourself? Because your work has remained consistent. You don't seem to have the bright and shiny object syndrome where you're constantly like changing and reinventing. Or maybe you are in small ways, but how did you find that who you were as a photographer? And did you go through phases of trying to like, all right, let me try what they're doing. Let me try what they're doing before you landed where Rachel is?
Yes, I definitely did that. And I think that that's like a growth part that I'm just far enough in my journey that people aren't seeing what.
Sure.
So, I mean, do you instantly have pictures that jump into your mind that you're like, oh dear God, why did I make that? Like, why did I think that was the way to go? Because I just had like a slideshow parade through my brain. So I definitely did. And I think like, if you're feeling like you're in that space with the bright, shiny syndrome, and you're like, because I feel like I'll meet a lot of people that they're kind of beating themselves up because they thought they wanted to go one way and now they want to shift. And what does that mean? And while I do think some folks are going to have a hard time ever settling, I thought I was one of those people. Like, I, throughout my 20s, I just felt like everything I was doing was unsettled. And I thought I was just kind of a flaky person who would always be thinking about the next big idea. And then I found something that I loved and was a little bit unexpected. Um, that felt good and that felt like I could continue to evolve with it. And so, anyhow, I do think my style has been relatively consistent for a while now. But one of the reasons is I'm a very intentional consumer, and I want to pay attention to what the inputs into my artistry are. And so I really try to study artists and look at their body of work, especially artists who, kind of have withstood the test of time. If you're primarily consuming your artistry through a scroll, I feel like there's a lot more chance to like get caught up with the cool new thing that's happening, and you feel a desire for that. But when I look at photo books and I think, this is what I know that I want, and it just helps realign me when I'm thinking, oh, I should play more with double exposure, or what if I did this, or like, how about direct flash, or do you know what I mean? All of these things. But when I go back to think, like, what is this canon of work that is my work that I go back to year after year? That kind of remains my North Star. And like, that's what I'm trying to create too. And I'm always trying to gather new inspiration, but I'm trying to think, is this something I would be proud of making, showing in a retrospective in 20 years? Does this have something to it that feels like it's really getting at the
Yeah,
heart of it?
That's so that you just made so many great points, and I admire you for that. And you talk about where and how you seek out inspiration and what it looks like for you, and then it, if it's ever like, and I'm gonna copy this, or is it like how it's inspiring you and informing your next move?
I mean, I think earlier in photography career, there was more a desire for a direct cop or a more similar copy. I will say, for better or worse, even when I was like trying to copy pictures, like I was trying so hard. It's not really my skill set. And so
Me neither.
lucky
Pinterest
for
fail
me, yeah,
only.
luckily for me, it just ended up being my own thing, even if I desperately didn't want it to be.
Yes.
Um, but one of the things, like having photo books and having those books in places where I see them on coffee table, on my bed, by my bedside, in places where they kind of inspire me to pick them back up, or if I'm feeling uh I don't know, just kind of that meh around my work, I try to go back and, look at Sally Mann, look at Gordon Parks, look at William Eggleston, Dorothea Lange, these people that I'm like, what is it about their work that has called to me for years?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it that I want in that vein, but not, I mean, I couldn't directly recreate it anyway, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so,
Right.
but trying to identify what pieces speak to me. And sometimes I'll be looking at William Eggleston and I'll be like, oh my gosh, look at that color. I want to play with color. Or look at how he does these portraits that are so kind of deadpan, or he'll do certain kind of still lives with light. And that'll be really fascinating. Or I'll look at Dorothea Lange's work and it's so much direct sun and really contrasty shadows. And like, especially because I do these long form sessions where I'm with people for 24 hours,
Yeah.
it means part of the day we're going to have some bright light. And how do I
Yeah.
want to create in that and not
Yes.
just dreamy, golden, side slanty light?
Yes. I love
Um,
that. Yeah.
you know what I mean? So looking at these people, or, you'll see Dorothea Lange, she photographs hands all the time. And you're like, how can I bring that into it versus how do I remake Migrant Mother? Uh, you know what I mean? That's not
Yes. Yeah.
the point, even if we all kind of want to.
Yeah. I have a similar practice. It's strange. A lot of my inspiration comes from like the old masters paintings. And
Oh,
I get really inspired by the colors and
mm-hmm.
the juxtaposition of colors and landscapes and things like that. And I do get like a very like a magpie where I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
And like how, but then I'm like, slow down. What, like you said, what are the common threads here? Like, what is
Yeah.
the thing that attracted me to this that has attracted me to this other thing that I've been doing for a long time? Because I think consistency is so important, even if it's boring. I think it's part of what makes your brand a little bit more high end or gives you it warrants a higher price point because people want to be able to rely on you to get what you say that you deliver all the time. And I only mentioned long form sessions very briefly, but you originated this idea of a long form session, and you are 100%. You don't own a patent on it,
Yeah.
but you could.
Yeah.
This is not, this is not day in the life per se, but you are going to folks' homes. You're often traveling. You're often getting on a plane, and you're staying at their house, right?
Yeah.
And you're eating meals with them.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the intersection of creating this, maybe like the twinkle in your eye before this materialized, and then how you were able to market such a novel idea that is kind of a tough sell when people who you're selling to don't have the same imagination or the same vision that you do. And I imagine
Yeah.
early on in offering this, where you didn't have the portfolio, the body of work of it to say,
Yeah.
like, this is what I mean.
Yeah. So it sort of originated because I had created on both sides of that. I had a photographer friend who came and stayed with me for a weekend, and we weren't having like okay, now's the time for the family shoot. She was just like taking some pictures. We would do a little we'd make some pictures and then we'd go back into living life. And then she'd make some pictures. And I loved how that felt on my end. And then kind of just coincidentally, shortly thereafter, I had a friend who came and spent the weekend with me. Also, I'm like a very big fan of sleepovers. I think adults need to be having way more sleepovers. It's like the best way to interact with your friends. So I
Yes.
do feel like there is a small part that I was just trying to get paid to have sleepovers at people's houses. That's when it goes back to feeling like, yeah, it's a racket. Like I'm, um, so how is because it doesn't feel like a day in the life session to me in the same way as I'm not trying to document exactly what happens in a day with your family. What I'm trying to do is create this container that's big enough that we can kind of play and come up with ideas and be like, oh, we want to do this around breakfast or the slanty light. Let's go do this over there. And then we just kind of like slow down and ease into something else. And then we're talking, we're sharing. And then it's like, oh, a new idea happens, or we have plans that we're going to go to the lake or we're going to go to the downtown area and also, again, I'm a scam artist. I go to these places and then people are creating their most beautiful day. They're thinking of like, what is important to me that she's going to come and see. So I get to be around for people's perfectly
Exactly.
crafted days. I'm
Yeah.
eating their favorite foods. We're going to their favorite places. They're wearing their favorite clothing. Do you know what I mean? And I get to be, that's so
Yes.
fun.
It is why we don't have the same mindset of people who work in other service industries where they come home at the end of the day and they say, I hate people.
Yeah.
I've never said that because I spend my time with people on their good days. Like I
Yeah.
get to see their best days and their best moments, or we try.
Yeah.
But I never have that attitude about humanity.
Yeah.
Maybe this year I will, but
Yeah.
but because of what you're describing, it's almost a curated, wonderful day where
Yeah.
we're showing up as our best selves. And it's a really nice thing to be a part of.
Yeah. And so we're creating through that, but especially because I shoot film, I can't have a camera to my eye I cannot afford to
Right.
photograph every moment.
Right.
And also film is a really light hungry medium. Places where you could shoot with your digital camera, I can't make a picture there. Like
Right. Right.
we don't have, I mean, I could, but it's not going to be anything you want. Um, so I kind of like the limitations of that so that it makes it actually, I think, less exhausting. I think if people thought she's going to be photographing us for 24 hours straight, that would be too much. But
Yeah.
it's about making these little pockets in a day
Mm-hmm.
and that we
Yeah.
come together. And sometimes people will be like, we're going to go take a nap or watch a movie for a while. Like, you want to go chill? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
that's how we do it so that it feels good. And then you come back together. Um, and
That's, yeah. Well, I just heard your friend, Yen Palmer, on another podcast talking about how artists, and this had never occurred to me, but it makes sense now. And I'll probably be seeking it out every time I shoot. But artists actually do really well with boundaries
oh,
because when you
yeah.
give us free reign, it's like we're just spilling all over the place, but give us like a conduit and parameters. And then all of a sudden we have to get creative, and our brain is working at its highest capacity to problem solve and come up with a solution that's beautiful. And I love that.
And that's where, to go back to the idea of consistency, which I feel like can feel like such a inspiration like damper or something, but when you're thinking about consistency as really being the boundaries around it so that you're creating with parameters, it doesn't have to feel like I have to pose people in the same way and use the same posing sequence, but you decide what are the parameters of your consistency. And
Yep.
film does one of those things for me that it's like that automatically kind of creates some things that mean it's going to happen. And there are other sort of self inflicted rules I give myself about what I'm going to share. And if I start to feel like that rule is becoming too restrictive, I can move past that and then decide, but then it needs to be an intentional decision. Like, am I going to build work towards this? Is this what I want to do? Or is this just like a one off experience that exist, and that doesn't have to be in my portfolio then.
Right. Yeah. So, film the constrictions of film are helping you maintain consistency. But are you usually shooting with the same film stock?
Almost completely Portra 400.
Really?
So yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
80% of my work is probably on Portra 400. So yeah,
Yeah.
it helps because I am kind of an inconsistent person. Also, I don't want to like deal with decisions very much. Maybe because I'm a Libra and I have a hard time with decisions. I just try to like put that. I don't want to like be standing at your session and like, oh, I could do this or I could do this. I try to have I have a pretty limited kit. I use pretty limited film stock, and that helps, yeah,
Yeah.
put put something around it so that I don't just like go nuts.
Yeah.
Because like I'm not a very consistent editor. It's part of why I like film, that like most of
Right.
the editing's done for me. If I was doing it on my own every time, I don't know.
Well,
Those greens would be all over the place.
Yes, it depends on my mood sometimes,
Yeah.
and it sounds so good because I shoot digital. Can you? I don't want to spend too much time on gear, but can you talk about your gear, your camera bodies, your lenses,
Yeah.
your favorites?
I pretty much exclusively shoot with the Pentax 645N, which is a medium format camera. And I shoot, I never remember what lens. It's like the lens everybody shoots with on that one, but it's roughly the equivalent of like a 50 millimeter on it, but I think it's a 40.
Okay.
And then I shoot with a Nikon F100, and I mostly shoot with that on a 35 millimeter lens. Sometimes, if like I'm doing personal work and I'm only bringing one camera, I'm probably going to bring the Nikon with a 50 millimeter. And every now and then I'll play with an 85 on it. But a lot of times because I travel for so much of my work and I'm never trying to check in luggage.
Mm-hmm.
So usually I just have the lens on the I have the two cameras, and I make sure that I bring enough film that if either one of the cameras died, I'd have enough film to work it entirely on the other. That's like because I'm working with really old cameras, they could die.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then I recently bought, but now I can't even remember what it is, a Nikon 135T. It's a it's like a nice-ish point and shoot, and that's mostly for if I want flash, and I still shoot weddings occasionally, and I just wanted something that was good for like reception flash party.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, that's so kind of you to still shoot weddings sometimes, because I suspect you don't shoot them for a lot of the same reasons I don't shoot a lot of them, is like they feel like work. I also feel like when I go in knowing how many hours I'm going to have to be working, I get this overwhelm, and it doesn't matter how long it is. It's just like, let it be over. And then you end up working for a lot of people who didn't hire you, which can be problematic.
Yeah.
certain types of people. So, but yeah, I will like maybe 1.5 every 3 years. I will say yes to some sort of nuptials, because sometimes it's a good fit. Not always, but yeah. So you are so inspiring, and I have just been like on KEH's website, like maybe I should get a film camera. Maybe I should just like get for my own for like my family, and
it's a gateway drug, though. I'm telling you, you do it and you're like, but I totally recommend, especially if you are a family photographer who has stopped taking pictures of your own family, because the idea of editing your photos just is so overwhelming. Yes. I highly recommend a film camera for those folks, because you go on vacation, maybe you shoot 3 rolls of film on your week vacation. You're going to get back 100 images. That's like a manageable number of images for you to. You don't have to like think about it, but so much.
It's the correct amount.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas when you bring out your digital and you've shot 3,000 and now you have like, we think because it doesn't take up physical space, it doesn't take up energetic space.
Oh, you're so right. I never thought of that.
Like, but that stuff is taking up space from
Yes,
us. And
it
so,
certainly is. It certainly is. You know what I just bought that Brooke had recommended to me is it is a digital camera, but it's that Camp Snap one.
oh
So it
yeah.
doesn't have the screen and it edits. It's like a JPEG. So it's
Mhm.
edited, it's done, and you're not caught up in like, was that good? Do we have to do it again? And
Yeah.
like, which I think is the beauty of film too, is like it is what it is and you slow down.
Yeah. And then you're just like move on and you don't do all of that. Like, because I think also we can get kind of self critical as photographers. We're trying to get the picture with the family. Like, we at least want ourselves to look good, which, like, I
Yes.
support. If you're doing that and you're actually getting in the camp in the pictures, like, good on you, do whatever you need to do.
Yes.
But I don't want to, I don't know. I used to do the thing where then I'd like get real pissed off at my husband because I'd be like, how come you don't know how to take a decent picture? But it was because I could like instantly do that.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas if I only have the pictures a couple weeks later, I'm usually pretty forgiving of them. I'm like, all
Yes.
right, it's not perfect, but there I am. Like, who cares?
You know, it's so funny. I just found our in like 2016, 2017, I bought a camcorder. Like it was,
Oh
not the
yeah,
big, not this one that you
yeah,
sit on your shoulder, but like a little Sony Handycam because at that time, I guess cell phones weren't doing it that well. And
yeah,
I just love the nostalgia of like, here's a home movie.
yeah.
And it sat in a drawer for a very long time. And I just pulled it out because my kids are always taking my phone to make movies right now. And I wanted them to not. And it still had the SD card in it. And I pulled it up and I uploaded those onto my computer. And like, I will preface this with saying that I was 70 pounds heavier. I was tired. I was pissed off, and most of them because my kids were really little and the house was a mess. I didn't care about any of that. Like,
Yeah,
shocker, didn't care. I loved seeing it. I loved seeing
yeah,
this version of myself, this version of our house, of our family that was a mess, that was chaotic. And I imagine with that space that you have from, it's not 7 years, but it's enough space from the time the photo is made to the time you see it with film, where it's like you're detached from that moment enough to like appreciate it and all of its flaws.
yeah. I really think, yeah, I can't be editing my life to fit a picture. And I
Yes.
think that sometimes we're doing that if as image makers, if we become so concerned with the image. And so I
Yeah.
also think, I mean, this is kind of tangential, but I maybe I was saying this to you in DMs, or I think the rise of AI is going to mean a perfect image is going to be so easy to come by that the way we're going to show humanity, the reason people are going to want us to come in to their homes is not going to be because we made a perfect image, because they could get that done. What
Yes.
they want is the act of being seen and witnessed, and they want something that feels handmade. And I think that the evidence of that is going to actually have more and more value because it's going to mean a person was involved, which I think could actually be the thing that like saves us as artists, is that our personal
I
thumbprint is on
agree.
it.
The pendulum will swing, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think the same sort of phenomenon happened with the advent of digital cameras, where now we could take a million photos all at once. We can hand pick the perfect one, which one is lit perfectly, and
Yeah.
this, and then people got sick of how perfect they were. And then lifestyle photography became a thing, and documentary family photography became a thing, where it wasn't as prevalent before. And I do think it's just like when you squeeze too much on anything,
Yeah.
people will pull back and it becomes too much. And I think that's an excellent point about how AI is probably actually going to help us as
And
photographers.
I feel like that becomes true about our businesses too, that I think too many of us think that our business is supposed to look so professional, so like, and that can feel dehumanizing, or
Hmm.
not as so like, let yourself, let your messy bits come through. I was telling you before the show, like, I don't have perfect email sequences because those things stress me out. When I try to like think about like,
Yes.
how is this
Yes.
going to work for every single person? And writing isn't that hard for me, so I can respond pretty quickly and
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
Uh But that means that I lean into the pieces that I'm good at, which means that I do need to be pretty responsive if somebody emails me, because I haven't set up all of the things that come out 1 week before, 3 weeks before. So
Mm-hmm.
when how do I stay available and open to them? And things like DMs and Instagram. Like, I love to send analog cards where I'm,
Yes, I love getting them.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love that you do that.
It feels like a way of being like,
Yeah.
and there's something to me about that act of like writing your address and thinking about where you are in the world. And it's like a little moment of like meditation and connection where I'm like,
Yes.
I'm with this person this moment, thinking about them. So those things can be there, even though there are other pieces that might feel, uh, a little sloppy, for lack of a better word. But I think when people know she's gonna show up, she's been caring, understanding, if I have a question, she's there, then I don't have to have mapped out perfectly, like, I will arrive at this. I mean, all of those things are happening, but it just can feel in a more organic way because that's how I like to operate.
Yes.
And that feels like a very human centered business, and they know they're working with a human. And if that feels good to you, you can operate your business that way. If that makes you feel nervous and sweaty, and then you get to put systems in place that don't do that. But if you're not
Exactly.
excited about it and you don't feel good about the process, then like, switch it up, man.
I couldn't agree more. I strongly believe, and I know that this is an unpopular opinion, but I strongly believe that we have overcomplicated the back end piece of this business
Preach.
that we run. It doesn't have to be so complicated. I've been advising one of my mentees on a CRM,
Yeah.
and like the CRM, and I'm using air
Yeah.
quotes, that I use is laughable to people who take that shit seriously. And
Yeah.
for me, can I book you? Can you sign a contract? And then can you just show up in my little digital ethos so that I know that we have this thing coming up,
Yeah.
and maybe a questionnaire? Like, I don't need automations, because we are not, for the most part, most of us are not volume photographers.
Yeah.
We have a very manageable amount of clients every year where we can have a human touch with them. And I really believe that whenever possible, like for you, it's writing. Writing is
Yeah.
your strong suit, and it doesn't use up all of your spoons to write your
Yeah.
emails and to connect with people that way. Find out what you can do organically as a human being. That's not an automation, that's not AI, and do those in your business. And then if you need to lean on that tech for support in areas that are a lot there, they have a lot more friction for you, then do it. But I'm right there with you. I know that like you have your newsletter that goes out. You write that every week, right? You don't batch
Yeah.
them.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is
It,
that's a big no-no, Rachel. Like, you're not
yeah.
batching your work, like, but you're doing it because you can. And
Yeah.
it's just a thing that you enjoy, that you're good at, and it's human.
Yeah. I mean, my newsletter is called Here and Now. I would feel very disingenuous if I was batching them all and then it was like, well, I was there and that was then. Like, this is about like getting a moment inside my creative life as a business owner, as an artist, as a mother. Like, I'm just offering that. And for me, I like it as a creative practice. And I just know too many photographers or people who are trying to start their business that they think that they can back end everything before they get started, and they let that also be a point of like their don't get started, because they're
Mm-hmm.
waiting to have the
Yep.
perfect email,
Yep.
the perfect funnel, and all of these systems in place that you don't even know what you need until you get started. Like,
You don't.
you don't know what kinds of responses people are going to be looking for. And so don't let this idea of this perfect business model keep you from getting started with the like sloppy human big-hearted business model.
That's right. It's so right. And like, we really, like, this is why I will, like, maybe say, yeah, it can be a racket, because right from the start, if you have $500 to spend, you can start this business and you can do a
Yeah.
lot for free,
Yeah.
or analog. Like you can have
Yeah.
a paper planner and you can connect with people in email that's free and edit on really janky
Yeah.
editing. So, that's free. Like you can do this with almost no overhead for a long time. And of course, you get to a point of growth or your a certain caliber of work
Yeah.
that you want to maintain that will cost a little bit of money. But this can be a very lean business to run. It doesn't have to be this clunky thing with a software stack that keeps you in line. And yeah,
No.
agree.
And so like if you feel excited about it, then go with it. Don't let all of the courses and all of the possibilities and all of the systems, like everybody's selling you a different thing that you need to do, and like some of
Maybe you
that
don't.
maybe you don't.
Yes, it's a lot of it can be left at the wayside, and it's too much noise. Same mentee who was curious about the CRM is like talking about a different course he might want to take, and I was like, dude, you spent $25,000 in education in the last or the first 2.5 years of your business. You're good. You know what you
Yeah.
know. Like what you know right now is going to get you really far. Right
Yeah.
now, you're going to learn from you and you're going to figure out what like your North
Yeah.
Star is and go from there. Like you are all set. I love to build my parachute after I jump. Like that is the only way I can do things. If
Yeah.
I wait to have the parachute ready to go, I'm not jumping.
Yeah.
I need that that fight or flight. I need the need to do it once I'm falling to build this thing and figure out how it's going to work for me. And yeah. So wow, yeah, tangential is a really good word that I've never used before, but
Oh
I'm
yeah.
going to have to use it
Yeah.
a lot. I didn't can't believe
Yeah.
that was missing from my vocabulary.
You're welcome. If you got one thing from this, guys.
I got so many things, but okay. I do want to know because we're running out of time, and I do want to know how you take this thing that you've created that is so unique. And I know you work with a lot of photographers, but I'm sure you did not at first.
Yeah.
How did you market this long form session idea? How did you get the word out there so that you were getting on a plane to go and see your clients? And and I know it can't be a cheap. It
Yeah.
can't. It's not a low price point
Yeah.
to do. It just can't be. So how are you doing this?
Well, from a practical side, I think it helped. I didn't have the platform that I currently have. Not that I have, I don't, I think I, it's kind of amazing how much work I get and how the people I get to work with, given the fact that, like, I mean, my platform's okay, but like, I don't have that many followers really. And I sometimes am like, I feel like I'm doing what seems like out of my bracket. So that just let that be a reminder too, that this started with even less followers, even, but I was tapped into um, a, a broader community than just my local area because I had been teaching online through the pandemic. And that was like just kind of like uh, it was Now School with Yan Palmer and Adrian Oliver, and we were doing these like uh, daily calls for almost 2 years.
My
That was
goodness.
like around creativity and presence and coming into loving terms with your body, um, and so that helped have a bigger audience, and that I think that there were people who had some sense of me and my work, and as soon as I said, "Hey, I'll come travel to you," because I made it and I made it very clear for how they could book and make that happen, people said yes. Um, Part of the story of it is I wanted my oldest child was about to start college and I needed to make money to be able to pay for her college tuition. And I was like, oh, I need to like add something to my business. I was already doing work as a photographer and doing fairly well, but I needed like a $30,000 raise and I didn't know how to get. So I was like, I have never really done mini sessions. I'm going to try, people talk so much and you can make all of this money from this. Anyhow, I put it out there. Like I put a lot of work into setting it up and I booked 3 of them. And it felt like one of those things that you were like, what the
Womp
hell?
womp. Yeah.
Everybody kills it on these. And like, this is the cheapest thing that I've ever offered. And then I was like, that's what everybody's offering. I think that's not what people want from me. Like, what if I gave them, I mean, I feel like an arrogant asshole saying this. They don't want less from me, they want more.
But
And I was like,
I think that was true. That was exact. They don't want 15 minutes of Rachel.
yeah. And that wasn't going to like scratch whatever itch, the desire for this thing, because it wasn't just about pictures. It was about being seen. It was about having these conversations. It's about having somebody see the life you're building and that you're like, I'm proud of this. I think like the loneliness epidemic is huge and we want witness to come in and so to say, this is what I'm going to offer. And I booked 6 long form sessions when I introduced it, where I had only booked 3 mini sessions. And as you can imagine, a long form session was quite a bit more
Right.
investment. And
Yeah.
so, but the things that I know that in order for people to like want to book me, I have to like put myself in places where they hear this conversation. And so they're like, oh, I want to work with her in mentoring, or I want her to come in and see so doing things like podcasts, speaking at events and retreats and workshops and things where I can do well on that personal level. And so I try to put myself in those places very intentionally as a marketing plan, that it's a big part of what gets people to my Instagram, what gets people to my newsletter. I don't think those are not, even though I'm pretty consistent with both of those aren't ways I get audience. Those are ways that I nurture an audience. So you have to keep thinking about like, where are the places I can show up to meet the people who might want to work with me? And so I pursue those, and whatever you all are doing, you have to think like, how do I come into actual contact with these people?
Yeah.
Just like yelling through your Instagram, like I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, look at my pictures, is not gonna do it. And
Nope.
like maybe there was once a time that it did, but truly that was so long ago. Like
it's too noisy now. You can't possibly. And so I think like you've really struck gold with your assertion that what people are seeking now, and with all of the new tech that we have, and is to be seen by a real human, to be seen by you specifically, because just like your work is consistent, you are consistent every time I've encountered you and spoken with you and heard you speak. It's the same Rachel, with the same warmth that is really magnetic, and when I don't need to tell you why you've been able to book so many long form sessions, but it's because if somebody's going to come into my house for 24 hours plus, I'm going to not feel uncomfortable around them. They're going to be a warm person. They're going to be funny. They're going to be easygoing and down to earth. So I would say if that's not you, then stick to mini sessions. No, but really, like, I think that's part of the ticket for you. And yes, we cannot yell into the void and get work anymore. I just recently started reflecting more and more on how some of my my most perennial clients have come in to my business, and it's almost always through an in-person interaction that we had. That's always been it. Like not Instagram, not Facebook. It's that really like human. If you are struggling with finding ways to connect in person, on the phone, whatever, work on it, exercise that muscle, because it is going to be key, I think, moving forward in business.
And I think people are like, let this be the marketing tip you take. There's so many people who are afraid to tell somebody when they meet them that they are a photographer, that if you're living in that place where you barely will even own that that's like what you do, you have like, you've stopped a potential and not that we have to be looking at every interaction as like networking, but but these things, the people who I've met at pools, that I've met at concerts, that I've like, literally, I got a wedding once because it was raining and I offered a lady to come on my porch to like wait out the rain. And then when I drove her back, this was all like in North Carolina, we connected. I've photographed her twice. I photographed her brother's wedding because like that moment. And I wasn't afraid to say I'm a photographer. And so like, just
it's an organic topic of conversation, what you do for work. You're going to get there.
Yeah.
I have recently, not that recently, but I was recently in triage for a colonoscopy.
Oh, fun.
And the nurses were like, so what do you do? I'm like, I'm a photographer. And like, oh, you're that Jill Smith? Because it's such a generic name that it could be any Jill Smith. But it's like, yeah, and here I am, and you're going to get to know me really good today. So that's super. But I'm always talking about what I do because I love it and I'm excited about it. And then people do this funny thing where even if they don't work with you, they're like, oh, I met this photographer. And just wait, the next time somebody asks about a photographer, I'm recommending Rachel because she gave me a ride home from the, it's like, yeah. That's how it works.
Yeah. And so like, go meet someone.
Yes.
Like, have a party, invite your neighbors over. Do they even know
Moral of the story?
Yeah.
That is why. And we only scratched the surface, but I guess you have to come back then.
Okay.
That's the only solution here.
Yeah.
Rachel, thank you so very much. Moral of the story is go meet somebody and use your creativity to create the business that you love and F all the rules that you've heard thus far.
Yes. I second all of it. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you so much. Have a really awesome day.
You too.
Bye.
So until next time, keep shooting, keep creating, and keep building the business that supports your dreams. Have a fantastic week. And remember, in the business of photography, your creativity is your biggest asset.